It's Wednesday, January 6th. Here are the day's stories from the Barbados Today newsroom. The woman behind a series of leaked photos on Instagram from the country's main isolation facility at Harrison Point, St. Lucie, says she did not do anything wrong over the controversial act that enraged many on social media. Our Kareem Smith has been tracking the story.
In a 30-minute Barbados Today interview conducted on condition of anonymity, the American citizen responsible for capturing patients, beds, food and staff at the Harrison Point Isolation Center maintained that her actions bore no malicious intent. Instead, she says the account was intended to share her experience with friends as well as to warn prospective visitors about the challenges they might encounter after testing positive for COVID-19 in Barbados. The Instagram account titled Harrison's Point Barbados documented her experience that started on December 20 when the U.S. native who lives in Europe arrived from the United Kingdom. The woman, said to be in her mid-30s, presented a negative COVID-19 PCR test, but 3 days later tested positive, marring an eagerly anticipated 2-week family trip. It was then that she began to share the experience of herself and other, quote, innocent holidaymakers who found themselves stuck at the facility with, quote, no rights or representation. The repeat visitor says she was careful to protect the identity of those on the compound and therefore saw nothing wrong with capturing the moments. The view, however, wasn't shared by some Barbadians who took offense to the disparaging comments and warned that legal action could be taken against her, given the island's COVID-19 directive, which prohibits persons from revealing the identity of those in isolation. In response to questions from citizens on Tuesday evening, the Attorney General, Dale Marshall, however, explained that the directive was in no way intended to shield government from criticism. Since then, the repeat visitor has left the island with no charges being brought, but she, however, has no intention of returning in the near future. Kareem Smith for Barbados Today.
Businesses are expected to resume operations today after being closed Monday and Tuesday as health authorities led an aggressive attempt to curb the spread of a worrying spike in COVID-19 cases. Prime Minister Mia Mottley had ordered the closure and announced a new 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew after a record 211 cases, including staff and inmates, at Her Majesty Prisons Dot, largely linked to a super spreader event identified as a Boxing Day bus crawl. Authorities maintain the situation is now under control, and on Tuesday evening, Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George reported that there are now 692 COVID-19 cases in Barbados. He, however, said the number of cases was trending downward thanks to the success of the contact tracing exercise. At least one group says the current curfew will put a further dent in its bottom line. Privately owned public service vehicle operators say they are on board with the measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus. But according to Chairman of the Alliance Owners of Public Transportation, Roy Raphael, shorter work hours will hurt.
We can see that it will add it to the more of the issues that we have as relate to the additional buses and pirates we have on the road. So we're seeing right now there is a significant decline in our ridership, and I suspect that we may have to attempt to meet with the various ministries, like Minister of Transport, the Ministry of Finance, to see how best we can get an ease at this moment.
Meanwhile, Raphael is urging PSV and taxi operators to be more vigilant and protect themselves from the virus.
What we're saying that we would like to see this across the board, right? Because some operators, as you know, we hear cases where people stop a taxi and they go to the airport. They were COVID-19 positive. We want special training so that people know that when people get into their taxi, they must be masked up. They have to have hand sanitizers, and also, if possible, temperature guns must be in place, right, to test these people as they come in. Also, we'd like to extend it to the ZRs and minibuses as well. It's a costly operation, but we are encouraging our due to the fact of the bus crawl and what is happening right now, the increasing number of cases. We're urging our members to be more vigilant at this stage.
Any attempts by the Caribbean Examination Council to hold this year's exams in the usual months of May and June is unacceptable. That's the view of student advocate Khalil Kofdiwala, who insists there are still too many questions about the controversial 2020 exam results. On Monday, CXC released new results from its reviews, but local students insist there was little change. Kofdiwala contends it cannot be business as usual.
Clearly, we see now in Barbados our return to school has been delayed by 2 weeks. In other countries, the Caribbean and Grenada, they are now experiencing problems, and in other territories also. The idea that CXC might wish to host a full exam as per usual as they do in any other normal year in the same time frame in May, June is obviously unacceptable. If they host the same structure exam in June or July, and they also wish to, they're not further set back next academic year going into 2021-2022 academic year, and we continue to have dislocation in the education system. Many of us who are on the front lines of this struggle are recommending to CXC that if we do go ahead with exams, look at England. England has taken the decision to cancel their GCSEs at A level from this early juncture and replaced it with alternative arrangements. Our suggestion to CXC is that if we do go ahead with physical examinations, that they introduce some element of optional questions to allow teachers and students not to feel strained to complete the syllabus that they cannot complete.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news in the Bahamas, there's a suggestion that the COVID-19 vaccine could be mandatory for students attending public schools. More in this report from Eyewitness News.
The COVID-19 vaccine may be mandatory for children going to school, according to Health Minister Ranwood Wells, who said that matter is currently under discussion. Wells, who has repeatedly said the COVID-19 vaccine will not be mandatory, admitted today that just as other vaccines for measles, mumps, and rubella are required for students, a COVID-19 vaccine may be added to that list.
Obviously, if that decision is made, we will come back and tell the Bahamian people. But we don't require you to go to school. We don't require you to take the flu vaccine to go to school. Okay? There are some vaccines that are required, and there are some vaccines that are not. The flu vaccine is not required.
But this is a discussion.
Okay? But this, I'm saying that I'm going to bring it to that level.
Wells reiterated that it is not the government's intention to force the vaccine on the Bahamian people, but he said that may change if the international health organizations make it a requirement.
The current position of the government of the Bahamas is this is mandatory. Unless the WHO and others change their protocols and their requirements, I don't believe that you will see any change with us. But again, this situation with COVID is very fluid.
On the international front, Democrat Raphael Warnock has won a runoff Senate election, according to projections from U.S. media, bringing Democrats one step closer to flipping the upper chamber of Congress. President-elect Joe Biden and the left-leaning Democratic Party have to win both runoff elections in order to flip the upper chamber of the Congress, which is responsible for lawmaking and a host of other duties.
We were told that we couldn't win this election. But tonight, we prove that with hope, hard work, and the people by our side, anything is possible.
And really, a lot of the grassroots efforts contributed to Warnock's win. There are a lot of efforts on the ground to get people to the polls, to make sure they're registered and make sure that they show up to vote. And if they didn't show up to vote, to mail in their ballots early. And I think that's really what made the difference in Georgia. A lot of people are pointing to former gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, who's been a celebrity, a star, trying to get people out to vote. She has set up various voter campaigns and voter drives has been very vociferous about the importance of the election, and a lot of people are pointing to her as a key person for the Democratic surge in the votes and voting and, of course, the election outcome.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.